Welcome everybody, welcome again to Tech News. Today we have the pleasure to have Mr. Vincent Leung with us, who is served as the head of the factory at Digital Bonsai, as well as an instructor at the Bonsai's camp, who is a very passionate about, I would say, open source, gaming development, and who has a much more vast experience with scalable solution and complex challenges in our software industry. So welcome, Vincent. So I will give you just a 2 minutes or 1 minute intro about yourself if you want to share something.
Okay, good morning. I'm Vincent. Been the head of factory here at Digital Bonsai for a few months now. It's a new role for me. Um, what can I say? Really, I've been in tech for the last 20-ish years. I've always been doing initially small websites, small apps, and now it's really more of a career. It wasn't that serious at first. I had a few career changes. I think everyone uh, swaps between a few careers before actually settling down into one. And that's pretty much it.
All right. So yes, you're right, because even myself, I was like a part-time salesman before I get into tech. I really like sales and marketing. So okay, let's go with today's topic, which I think is very, very interesting. What is freelancing?
Yeah, so freelancing in my mind is really being your own boss and finding the things that really interest you and dedicating your time and energy towards that goal. Of course, you're not always going to come up with your own projects. It's more of a question of finding projects that people want to create and helping them achieve that.
Yeah. So indeed, most of my career, I work as a full-time employer, but I also did some freelancing at some point. And what I've noticed is that in terms of mindset, there's a big change. For example, when you work full-time, you just sit down and log in, and then your senior or customer or PM, like Hidayat, is going to tell you, here's all your requirements and you can get started. But for freelancing, I've worked on a project once. I did it in during the weekend, and here I needed to solve everything myself, even the requirements. So I know that there's a big difference in mindset. So I would like to ask you to elaborate a little bit on that, on your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think you already started a very good topic. When you're freelancing, most of the time you are kind of solo. You're doing everything from start to finish by yourself. There's a big part of being independent, of having the self-confidence to say, hey, this is the mission, this is the goal we have to achieve, and I'm gonna find a way to do it. Yeah. Either it being I'm actually like I have the skills to do it, or I will find a friend or whatever you need to do. Right? Because freelancing at the end of the day, you have a set of requirements that you have to fulfill, and you are contracted to complete it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. At the end of the day, you did say that, hey, I'm gonna do that for X amount. You have to be confident again. You have to be reliable. You have to be able to find the resources on your own to complete that.
Yeah, I agree. Because one thing that is always in my mind is like difference between full-time is how you manage deadline. Because for my part, for example, I had to a very agreeable. We already agreed the deadline, and I had to deliver to the deadline. And I think that's very different compared to most work. For example, we use Scrum, and Scrum we have the time boxing and so on and so forth. So I know that's one of the challenge of freelancing. How do you deal with that normally?
I would say it's not that formal. It's more about just experience. Doing things and then it didn't work out, and then the next time you don't repeat the same mistake. It's a lot of that, to be honest. Because when I first got into freelancing, it was really the start of my career. So I didn't know everything. You have to be humble too. You don't know everything. You're always gonna be learning. And like you said, it's not very structured. you're normally directly in contact with a client. If you make some kind of mistake or whatever, I mean, you are responsible for it. You can't really hide behind a project manager or a consultant or whatever. So yeah, very different kind of mindset, very different kinds of challenges. Like you said, again, time management is a huge issue. Especially since freelancing, maybe you're not only working on one project, maybe you're working on a few projects at the same time. But each client has their own specificities and their own particularities, and they each have their own deadlines, which do not necessarily match with yours, right? So yeah, lots of time management issues. How do you deal with them? Again, in my opinion, it's good planning first. But at the end of the day, it's you will have to rely on your experience and make the right decisions. Right?
Okay, yeah. Let's take a typical scenario. You've been assigned 3 days to add in an e-commerce system very quickly. You need to add OAuth, and maybe you've let's say you've agreed 3 days for implementation for OAuth with, let's say, Google and maybe Instagram. But you are over the 3 days. How do you negotiate, or how do you communicate with the stakeholder?
Communication, I'm not sure. It depends. It really depends on the client, because when I was freelancing, I mean, some of the clients, they don't even bother to check in with you. Yeah. So if it's only 3 days, they might check in on the third day, and then it's either you pass or you fail. But yes, in terms of time management, definitely I would be looking at the different libraries on my own. If it works, great. I won't be trying to reinvent the wheel. I will just be using plugins and libraries, to be honest. And if I had to communicate, then at each step, I would just send a quick message. Hey, today I did this, it works. And yeah, just quick updates, really.
Yeah, I think the important part is over communicating and putting, like, letting the person know that the work is being done. Because once I had someone do some work at home, and like I don't even know what he was doing. So at the end of the day, I thought he did his job, of course, but I wasn't sure what. I'm paying you quite some money, but what did you do really? But these small updates,
I think part of the thing is to also under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
True. Because as a freelancer, you always want to keep a good reputation. You don't want to really say, hey, you did everything, but at the end of the day, you only did 80%. You actually want to do the opposite. You want to say that, hey, I did 80%, but actually you completed 100%.
Yeah, true. So for you, what are the main benefits of freelancing?
The main benefits, the great benefits. I mean, you really get to pick the projects you work on. Which as an employee you don't always get to do. If you're very lucky, then but rarely you get to do that. So you get to pick your own battles. You get to pick what you're passionate about, and it's not only in terms of the project requirements, as in the details of project, but it's also about the clients, right? Sometimes someone has a great idea, you love it, but you don't necessarily like that person. Again, not because they're a bad person, but more a question of communication. You're not of the same communication styles. You don't work the same way, which is a totally reasonable thing to do. So you are your own boss, and again, you get to pick your own battle.
Yeah,
that's the greatest things, really.
Yeah. Just one last question before Hidayat can take over. So we know that when you have a career, a full-time job, certifications play a huge role. But I believe for freelancing, it's different. I'm tempted to think at least that having a portfolio is better. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes. Yeah, I 100% agree. If I'm looking for a freelancer, normally it's a smaller job. I don't necessarily go and check, we've got a bachelor's degree here, we've got a master's there, we've got a PhD. It's more a question of, hey, they've completed a few projects before, they have good reviews, they communicated with me correctly in the sense of normally freelancing is a global thing. Personally, I had a lot of issues communicating with foreigners because we don't speak the same language, or we say the same words, but they don't have the same meanings. Maybe we said I completed everything, but everything is only 50%, you know? So yeah, again, freelancing, it would be more about your portfolio. It would be more about what others within your network says about you. And in this sense, degrees, certifications, papers are not that important. But of course, if you have them, power to you, it's even better, right?
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting because we had that topic around certification versus degrees the other day with Chucky. It was kind of enriching. And one other thing which we've realized is can be certification and portfolio, it can be easily visible for remote job as well. And coming to that is we wanted to understand one thing, Vincent, since we are talking about freelancing and that's kind of the core whereby you are today. How can someone in IT today get into freelancing? What are the steps for that person to be in freelancing? If today I say, okay, I'm stopped to work where I am, a full-time job, I want to be in freelancing. How
Yeah,
do
I
I
think
do
the
so?
first step is really to build your own sets of skills, or your hard skills, the soft skills, both of them are really equally important. Um, in the process of doing that, make a small network already, because at the end of the day, freelancing, you need to have contacts. You are directly with clients, whether they are local networks or a more global network of contacts. Then, of course, once you have the skills and you have that small network, you have to advertise that you're actually looking for work, yeah, that you are open for hire. And how can you actually do it in terms of more practical methods? Yes, go on to every small website and services, for example, like Fiverr. Yeah, just advertise yourself. Yeah. And same. One of the things that have worked for me was I contacted my university, the alumni group, and I looked for work there.
Cool. You mentioned something very interesting. You talk about advertising for a developer. Today, maybe not all developers, but one of the gaps that developers have is communication. And this is kind
Yes.
of everywhere. We mentioned how key communication is in freelancing, but there is also this aspect behind. It's like how if I can't communicate myself, how I can't advertise. It's not just a matter that the person is a geek. Far from that, or is an introvert. I don't agree with that at all. If someone, I often say that to my people, if you can swear on a pitch of football pitch, you can easily talk. So the similar way today, when we are talking about advertising, if we digitalize it, like put it on a LinkedIn profile, have it somewhere, it
Yeah.
kind of brings some added, right? And you've mentioned about a few sites like Fiverr. Is there any other specific site that came in your mind whereby a developer can go and advertise themselves, except from LinkedIn, the normal one like LinkedIn or even Fiverr? Is there other one?
Yeah, I mean, I also tried non-traditional ones, so not really business websites and stuff, but more like, Reddit, Discord, social media websites,
Mm-hmm.
um, which also work, surprisingly enough. And again, non-traditional, I think, same. Looking at my group of friends, don't mix work and friends too much, but I mean, you can try. Uh, Alumni from your previous schools, let it be primary school, secondary school, or tertiary. Yeah? Doesn't really matter. I also back in the days tried with friends of friends, which is a bit further away, a bit more risky. But yeah, advertise anywhere really, and I agree 100% with you. We have a lot of devs with, I would say, imposter syndrome. They're not sure how to advertise themselves. They're not sure what their skills are. Um, I mean, immediately as a dev, base level dev, you have a lot of skills. There's a lot to be proud about. You know how to design things. You know how to to structure your thinking, which I think is the most important part of it. You're able to break down tasks into different steps. So yeah, don't be afraid. Just try something. And if you make mistakes, if it doesn't work out the first 10 times, the first 100 times, I mean, what's the issue there? You made a mistake. Maybe one person will remember you, but I don't think so because they'll go through 100 applications in a day. Just try. Eventually, you will get much better at it, and you will thrive. You'll just be able to take on different tasks, and that's it. You will get where you want to be.
Let me just add a quote there. Yeah, there's a saying: "Never lend your friend money." Why? Because you either lose the friendship or the money.
Yeah. Whenever I lend something to a friend, I just consider it gone. If they give it back, then I'm like, okay, cool. You have lower your expectations.
That's really interesting. Never lend your friend money. That's really nice. So one last question on my side. I think we've kind of done the topo of everything, but just one question, and then after that, please jump in. I have a question for you. I've also done freelancing when I was developer, especially when you start to see like there are opportunities. I've noticed something, but you're more experienced and you've kind of done that for much more years than me. I want to understand, and it's a honest answer. It's not necessary to be right or wrong again. What do you think about doing freelancing with Mauritian clients versus doing it from offshore clients from other countries, like any countries? Is there a difference, or
there's a huge difference? Huge difference. Again, just being honest, but this is my opinion. This is my experience. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to be everyone's experience. But in general, Mauritian clients, they really don't know what they want. They're just giving you, hey, I want a website. I want an app that does, I don't know, something crazy like I want an app that tracks all the satellites over the world. But they don't really think about, hey, that small easy thing that you're thinking of. It's actually something very complex. It's something customized just for you. And that takes time. That takes a lot of money. That takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of brainstorming too, in terms of the different tasks that you have to do, in terms of the requirements that you're imposing on the dev. In general, in Mauritius, yes, you do get crazy ideas, and they're always like, yeah, it's gonna be easy. And when you figure out that, hey, this dude, his project is actually gonna take 2 years. As a freelancer, I'm not gonna take that job because, again, I'm just trying to do things that interest me. And if I wanted to do long-term projects, I would have been an employee. So yeah, if you look at foreigners, it's normally much more straightforward. It's okay, I want to do a website. I want it to have X feature, Y feature, Z feature. And the deadline is right there. There's no issue about payment normally, which is an issue in Mauritius too. Nowadays, it's a bit more easy because you have Juice and the different payment systems. But if you had to do wire transfers, it wasn't that reliable. So yeah, really, I would say it's more a question of scoping of a project and communication.
That's really good because you have the same issue. It's more like it's that the thing here is I would say with time we get more wisdom. The thing which I notice with certain clients is they are not IT projected client, like they are not in the IT world some of the time. One of the project I remember I got in the past was again around a website development and had the future in it that I haven't seen anywhere else. And they wanted to have that, which was good because they were in kind of a specific industry and they had already this in mind. They were doing it on a whiteboard and they want to take it from whiteboard to the website. The idea was good, but the time it took us to explain to the client how to do that was a bit of a long period of work. And definitely when we say long period, it's investment sometimes. And this is other thing that comes in. And sometimes had that difficulties in not just Mauritius. This is something I got in every place I've been in freelancing as well. Is the time you spend in analysis, the time you spend in requirement is my time. Sometimes it's chargeable time, and people don't realize it. Like, okay, but you're not delivering anything. I'm gathering information, and again, with time I realize before I go to a client, what I do now, I educate the client. I invest.
Yeah.
This is my first level of investment. I invest. I explain to them like what's a sprint, for example. How do we get things deployed? Where do we get that deployed? Where would that be? So when you take that in a nutshell and you start with that first level, understand what's in the IT, what's software delivery, and then you move forward. It goes easily. And this is something even in big corporate, we got that issue when you have client who has money but who's not in IT. And for them, I recently got this. For example, I had to explain to a client the importance of having UAT environment because for them, testing is done on live. Once the system is live, then they will do testing. It saves cost, definitely, but they don't realize that the cost when we go live and the cost that we have it earlier, it's way cheaper. And this is something down the line slowly tends to happen. Thanks a lot, Veso. Adela, is there anything you would like to add more?
Just maybe one question that can interest our audience is how do you handle how do you say no? Let's say you have a client who is going to ask you a lot of things and the context is different from traditional full-time job. So how do you say no?
Very tricky question. If you haven't contracted yourself yet, if you haven't agreed on anything yet, I would just do a simple, no, I'm sorry, to be respectful, but still be firm in your answer. Just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't take that job, and don't really over-explain yourself because you don't owe anyone any answers really. It could be any reason, could be a personal one, could be a financial one, could be a time management one. It doesn't matter. But if you have contracted yourself, then it gets a bit more challenging. Then I would say again, base yourself on your experience, but yes, always remain respectful. And if you have agreed on something, if you can't deliver anymore, try to come up with solutions. There could be a compromise, just with saying, I completed 90% of a task, but the last 10%, sorry, I lack the skills for it. Be honest. Find another solution in terms of maybe, okay, I will lose some money too. That's not an issue. I will take the 15% penalty fee, but we'll end it here. And again, just be respectful of a client because at the end of the day, you both want to do something, they just don't align at that specific moment. And yeah, remain respectful and just say no, be firm.
Okay, it's good for me. Thank you.
Thanks. I think that's all from our side. Thanks again, Vincent, to be here. Thanks, Abdallah. Have a nice day.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you for inviting me here. Have a nice day.